you see Surtain every day, and you've seen him for all
Mm.
the years. Just empty the bag because he was defensive player of the year,
Right,
and he's an all pro, and we all see that. But I don't know if the viewer or the listener in Miami or the viewer or the
right.
listener in Kentucky can appreciate just how good this player is. Because I talk to coaches around the league, and they're like, "There's no debate anymore. This is the number one corner in football."
I agree. You start with the physical traits. I mean, he's 6'2.5". He runs 4'4". He's got great footwork. He's got great quickness. He can bend. He's got ball skills. He tackles. Last year, his best stat was he didn't miss one tackle,
Mm,
as a corner. And obviously the cover skills, but the football IQ it's off the charts, right? I mean, he can play safety. We travel, Pat, left, right, slot. It doesn't matter where the best guy goes. He can travel, and I am not calling on man with that. I'm just calling the defense. And Pat ends up playing nickel. He plays nickel. He ends up playing dime. He plays dime. We have calls where he's on number three. He's playing a safety spot. So he understands the entire defense. So we can match him on any one, any time, any spot, right? And the person, right? The person is better than the player, and that's
mm.
rare. You say that about great players, but he's so humble. He's a great teammate. He services his teammates like no other. Like Riley Moss, that's his guy. And
Yeah,
I can't get pissed at Riley too much because Pat may get pissed at me. He protects
he's
Riley from
protected him
me.
too. Yeah.
But he's a great teammate, and that's his best trait, man. As a person, outside of the physical traits and a great player and a tough player, he don't have very many weaknesses. His only weaknesses, he thinks he's not Pat Surtain sometimes.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I say, dude, you're the best corner in football. I don't want any balls caught. Like not one ball caught over there. So believe me and buy that. But such a great person. But it's a joy to coach because there's no issues. I mean, you can coach him hard, right? You can explain. He learns quickly. He corrects quickly, and he's so self-aware, man. So that's huge for a star.
I look at the culture with this Broncos team. Obviously, everyone's believing, and it starts with George and Sean.
Hmm.
Um, you obviously joined them as the defensive coordinator. You came in. What were you trying to establish for your defense, and have you gotten there? You think yet, or is there even more that this unit can do?
Right. When I first came in here, obviously it's my second stint here, and Vic's obviously a great defensive mind. So the defense wasn't totally broken.
Hmm.
Obviously Vic and my philosophies are a lot different. So it took me a couple weeks, couple games to kind of just get down to what I wanted the division to look like. I'm more of an attack style, downhill coordinator, and Vic's more of a bend don't break, kind of more shell. They both work, but I think for our football team, where we were in the season, our first couple years, it was better off playing downhill and playing aggressive on our terms, taking the ball away, hitting the quarterback. And that's kind of turned our entire philosophy on defense, man, to play on our terms, but also be smart. We focus on being smart bullies. We don't want it to
Mm.
be a crazy blitz team that's blitzing, exposing players, exposing gaps. So everything we do that's aggressive, it's thought out. And we talk about being smart bullies, and that's our deal. And
Smart bullies,
smart bullies,
number one in the league in sacks,
yes.
man.
And we can flip it, right? We can play, games differently, and I pride myself in that, right? We can have a game where it's 65% pressure, right? Or we can have a game where it's 10% pressure. In the first half against the Chiefs, they were taking shots early, so I didn't blitz as much, right? Like 4 or 5 times. In the second half, we blitzed about 20 times. So we pride ourselves on adjusting quickly on game day. We have a bunch of smart guys, who've now been with me for 3 years, so we can
Mhm.
adjust quickly on the fly and go from being attacking, to kind of bend don't break back to attacking. And if you can do those things on game day, man, it makes it easy to win games late, especially because you can adjust quickly.
I first met you when you were coaching the Broncos as a head coach. Of
Yeah.
course, you go on to be the defensive coordinator with Cliff in Arizona. And Cliff, by the way, loves you. Everyone who's ever worked with you loves you. And then you come to Denver. I think it's very rare we see a former head coach come back to a city and say, you know what, I'm going to be a coordinator and I'm going to coach as one of the units. There's a
Right.
humility in there, there's a lack of ego in there, and there's also someone who's very secure in their place. With the fans and of course with their place in the league and as far as all the competitive nature goes and being finally one of the head coaches, what was the conversations, and did you hesitate saying, am I really coming back here to be the
Right.
assistant after I was the head
Right.
man?
No, it was never a problem for me. Obviously Sean's been a head coach for a long time, a very successful head coach. Denver to me was, it's a home. It's home for me, right? I played ball in Boulder. I lived there after I, graduated college. I was head coach here for 2 seasons. So, it was home for me. So I didn't leave Denver so bitter, where I couldn't come back. My 2 years in Denver as a head coach, I thought, it was tough times, but it was the best I can do at the moment. And
Hmm.
it wasn't bad football, right? It was just not enough time to get it fixed. So I didn't see it as failure for me. It was my first opportunity. It didn't go right. I look in the mirror, and I fix me, and I come back, and let's do it. Let's do it better. So when Sean called me, I wasn't opposed to it. I was very excited about it. Because
Yeah.
Denver is a great place, and getting here, man, the ownership is the best. It's the best. Meeting George. I mean, George is the best. And Sean, his way of painting pictures, right? I mean, Sean very well. He can paint a
Yes.
picture, man. And his vision for me, his vision for the defense, his vision for this team, I was sold. And that's Sean's greatest strength, man. I mean, he can paint a picture, and he gives you a vision of what he wants it to look like. So it's easy to follow. So I had great confidence in Sean. I love George. I love the ownership, and I love this city. And I told my wife yesterday. I said, to be 9-2 in Denver. After our head coaching stint here, man, I'm so happy for the city. I have buddies here, who I went to school with, who are huge Broncos fans, and they're happy. They're happy with the product, and this fan base, Peter, is amazing. When you're winning in Denver, man, it's nothing like it. It's the best job in football.
Mm.
So for me, it's been fulfilling to come back and work with Sean, the ownership, George, these players, and just for the city, to have a chance to win and go to the playoffs and hopefully one day win a championship again. That's huge for me. Outside of my own wants here, I want it for the city.